Welcome to the latest podcast. Now, I'm a bit puzzled actually because Russell, the guy behind this, and the next one, the final one for the season, or penultimate one for the season, is going to be about the desert rats. So I thought, what are we doing? Are we doing a military historical, or was it going to be a national geography style look at vermin in the desert? Neither of those got it totally wrong. So, Russ, what's this all about?
Well, this one is, I named it the Desert Rats, but the Desert Rats of rock and roll. The Desert Rats who brought rock and roll to Dubai, Abu Dhabi, Muscat, Al Ain, Bahrain, all over the Arabian Gulf back in the 80s. And for those expats who listen on our podcast, it certainly wasn't like it is now. None of the luxuries, none of the equipment, and very boldly, these guys who are on today were very much involved in trying to patch up and make sound good for some very big, prestigious artists at that time, I must say. But without further ado, I have to set the scene. It does take a bit of time, so bear with us. Going back to the beginning of the 80s, a promoter who we've already spoken about in previous podcasts, Brian Miller, who worked with Jacek Slatala to take Pink Floyd and other bands to Russia and other places in the Eastern Bloc at that time, decided in his wisdom to start looking at providing for cash-rich expats in the Gulf region, artists of the day. And he teamed up with a cheeky chappy ex-British Airways station manager from Bahrain, a guy called Simon Walton, and the International Leisure and Arts was born. And they decided to bring artists, and one of the first artists that they wanted to bring was Tina Turner. And Tina Turner had split from Ike, if you know your rock and roll history, and it was quite a early stages of her relaunching her solo career, and others as well. But the main problem, the main challenge was to bring these artists to, which was basically a desert with a few nice hotels and lots of cash-rich, like I said, expats. One of the biggest challenges was equipment. And these artists were used to playing and performing to good sound and lights, and there just was nothing like that in the Gulf region. So they had to set about purchasing a lighting rig and a sound rig, which Brian went to a few old friends at Tasco, I think, and maybe Graham later on will correct me, and got a sound rig together, an old Martin rig, which had already seen a lot of mileage, that's for sure. The old Martin bass bins and Philly shaves, and brought that, tried to bring that out to the Gulf, and a Selco system from Supermic, the famous lighting company at that time, run by an Irish gentleman a guy called Peter Clark. But the biggest challenge then was, and this is where Simon Walton from British Airways came in, how are we going to get this in? How are we going to get this into, the Gulf? And half of it was shipped in with favors, and half of it was brought by excess baggage, believe it or not, which just is unheard of nowadays. So this sort of sets the scene a bit of what they were trying to do. And like I say, some of the early artists, Tina Turner, later on Eddie Grant and people like that, Leo Sayer, who, for the expats who are working in the oil fields, this was like amazing for them to be able to see these artists firsthand. So that's it. So today, what I've done is I've invited some old colleagues of mine. I work with them. I was the promoter's rep for Mr. Walton and Mr. Miller, and doing production, promoters repping, and a bit of stage management as well, if you like, and tour management of these bands. So a bit of everything. But I came in a little bit later. There were a few predecessors before me. I probably came in the mid-80s. And I've invited Graham Trudgeon, who is a mastermind at lighting, and Kevin Winder, old friends of mine, Kevin, who did sound. So without further ado, Phil, over to you, mate. I know that's a very long introduction. It's the mother of all introductions. But Here we go. We're away.
There we talk about long introductions. Yes, one of the longest we've had on our podcast series and
Yep.
probably in the history of podcasts. So there we
Yep.
go. That was a great introduction. I'm sorry, guys, but we've run out of time now. So we'll see you some other time.
See you later.
Bye.
Okay,
Bye.
okay. Right. So a great introduction there and how that landscape has changed from the uh, city side, the metropolises, and also on the technical side, equipment. So Graham, let's start with you. I mean, how did you get involved with being out in the desert and sort of doing shows with what seemed like very basic setups at that time?
Well, to start off with, I knew a guy called Colin Hanna, who was actually tour managing at the very start of my start. And he contacted me one day and said, would I be interested in doing some lighting? Started off with, it was supposed to be in South Africa in a church, but that soon changed, and he put me on to coming out into the Middle East, which at the time I was DJing and discoing and what have you, and I said, well, yeah, why not? So that's how it all began, really and truly. I just sort of fell into something that I never knew anything about, but decided that why not? We'll give it a go.
We're going to find out more about that journey from South Africa to the desert in a moment or so. But let's get Kevin's take. How did he get involved with the bunch of desert rats? I want to know.
Well, I met Russell in Sun City when I was working there, and we became friends. And he said, "When you come over, I'll give you some work." And I came over in '88 to the UK, and within a month, I was Graham's lackey on the lighting for Shaking Stevens.
Gosh, yeah.
Yeah, that was my introduction.
I must interject there, Kevin. The real story is that you were doing monitors for Status Quo at the Super Bowl in South Africa, and I took pity on you because the band used to wind you up. And they used to call during the gig. You know, you got a Super Bowl full of fans. They're playing, famous Status Quo songs, and they're like going, like this to Kev, and he comes running along. You've seen it a million times. The roadies, they try and do it as discreetly as possible, but everybody can see them, even though they're crouching and going. And then Mick Rossi would go, sorry, Rick Parfitt would go. And you go, what do you want? You go, fuck off. And then so Kevin would go back again. And then Rossi would call him and he'd come running out and he'd go, yeah, what's the problem? He'd go, fuck off. And Kevin would run out. They do this like all through the show. I don't know if you remember. Anyway.
I can imagine them singing down, 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 Kevin down here.
But it was so funny because Kev was like keen, and professional. And like he had his eye on the band and they something was wrong with the monitors. But no, they were just playing games with him. So anyway, we did become friends and I invited him out. Anyway, sorry, Kev, carry on, buddy.
That sounds a good laugh. So back to the desert and the kit, the equipment. What did you start off with, Kevin? I mean, was it top-notch stuff or what?
No, actually, it was Brit Row, Russell.
Brit Row.
Yes. They got all the stuff from Brit Row, and it was the Pink Floyd quad gig.
Ooh.
All the quad equipment. So it was one of the desks and one of the PAs that they brought out there. So it was part of a tour that Pink Floyd had done, and then they sold off all their stuff because they were going on to new gear. So it wasn't bad.
That's pretty impressive, yeah. Quad setup, yeah.
We had to keep it running, we had to tweak and fix it all the time. But yeah, it wasn't bad equipment at all.
Yeah, a lot of band-aids, I think.
Yeah.
I mean, a Martin system when it's cooking, it really. Really sounds sweet. The only thing is, I couldn't say the same about the lighting because when Graham's lighting was cooking, it usually meant that one of the dimmer racks had caught fire during the show.
Which happened. Yeah,
but regularly. Right?
We had good engineers coming out with the bands as well, so they knew how to make a system sound good. So it worked, and it was a good system. And Murray, the guy before me, who I took over from on the sound system, he had umpteen problems and used to bitch about it all the time. And I was more chilled.
Yeah, Murray, when I first met Murray, because I came, Colin Hanna was before me, and I think even Phil Bowdry was before Colin Hanna, and maybe another one before that, which I'm talking about a bit later. But when I came a week after you. Kevin wasn't involved then. It was you and Murray, and you were in the warehouse in Dubai, hot and sweaty, horrible, dusty place. Sorry, I don't want to give you too much flashback there, Graham, but I just remember coming, and I would describe Murray, bless him. He'd really, really just had enough of this rig, and he sounded like, I don't know if you ever watched The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. He sounded like the manic depressive computer, you know. He was like, oh no, this is like, he just really, really had enough of it. And I said to Simon, you really need to get these guys some help, you know. They're really doing their best to patch up, you know, the best of a bad job. It was difficult, wasn't it? You know, bringing parts and that. But that was my first memory. I met you and Murray in that warehouse where you were trying to prep the gig. I don't know what gig it was. Maybe it was Shakin' Stevens or something. I don't know. But
no, I can't remember the gig. But yeah, it was always fairly stressful in the warehouse because there was nothing there apart from sand.
Exactly.
Corrugated asbestos or whatever it was.
And dust, lots of dust.
Yeah.
So, Graham, what were the biggest challenges for you on the lighting side and the lighting rig and kit?
Keeping it alive, really.
Alive, yeah.
Yeah, it would die a death at an instant. Especially the dimmer packs. The dimmer packs just didn't like hot, dust, sand.
Sure.
Sand and electricity doesn't really go well together.
It's a bit like electricity and water, but it's a different dimension, I suppose.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
When Kev first came, he thought it was break time and it was a braai, but it wasn't. It was your racks on fire, and we were so used to it. And we were like, oh no, Graham will sort it out. They catch fire all the time. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, we just take one out of the system. Yeah. We did that with the Gypsy Kings.
Yeah. As you can see, Graham is a very calm and cool guy, which is exactly what was needed for that time and those challenges, Phil.
And how would you describe Kevin? Is he the opposite or what?
Kevin always used to throw his arms in the air and say it as it is. But in the end, his passion for getting the show on the road was, I have to commend him for that.
Kevin, what is perhaps some of the fondest memories you have of life in the Desert Rats and the shows you put on?
Well, it's some of the artists. I mean, we worked with some of the best artists in the world at the time. And some of the oldest, you know, the old 60s and 70s crowd and that was fun. Yeah. But what Graham was saying earlier about his dimmer racks getting fried and that, my sound modules used to get fried as well. And I remember that the two of us used to take stuff back to the UK to get it fixed in our hand luggage, and back out to the Middle East on the next tour, you know. So we'd be laden with all this stuff, and because Simon didn't want to pay anything, you know, excess baggage and all that sort of stuff, so we had to fit it into our luggage. So, you remember that, Graham?
Yeah, I was going to say, didn't we take a monitor desk back once?
Yeah. And truss. We took some truss excess baggage.
Yeah. That was a while. Yeah.
Because Simon, who we will talk more about Simon, because Simon, looking back, even though for me, working for Simon quite openly, the most funny, irritating, wind-up merchant you'll ever work with. But at the end of the day, he did have a passion for it, but he had the gift of the gab. How he pulled it off with Gulf Air, which you've got behind, which is great. You've got that up because we went everywhere on Gulf Air and we abused that airline. We had these excess baggage vouchers, if you remember. We knew all the people at the airports in those days. It was like a family. It was nothing like it is now, Metropolis. We knew everybody. We could swing anything, and taking a blooming half a lighting rig and trussing on a plane, excess baggage is you just never do it nowadays. It's madness.
Especially somewhere like Kuwait. We went into Kuwait several times.
Oh gosh. Yeah, because they had nothing there. If you thought our equipment was bad in the Emirates and I mean, once you got to Kuwait and oh dear, and Doha, even because there was only the Sheraton in Doha then, if you remember. The Sheraton was built in 1985, 4 or 5, I think. And we all started doing shows there in 1987 or 8, something like that. But the equipment, it was awful, wasn't it? And you had the glass. you had to sort of like stick your head out the. Am I right in remembering that?
Yeah, we had simpler shows there.
Yeah.
We used to do cultural shows. Yeah, it's important to say, Phil, that we did a lot of rock and roll, and these guys brought rock and roll to the desert. But we also did cultural things like the stars of the Bolshoi ballet on the beach, which, you know, the ballet but on the beach. And then we do the ballet in the Hyatt Ballroom, and they had a big chandelier, and the dancers used to have to carry the girls round the chandelier, otherwise they'd bump their head. It was such a low ceiling. Oh, crazy story. And comedians and the Cossack dancers, also memorably the Cossack dancers, if you remember, Kev. I've seen a picture. We are going to show some of these pictures at the end of the podcast.
But talking about the ballet, you didn't have the orchestra because the costs involved would have been really, really prohibitive. But you had tapes, and wasn't there a story where the tapes were going faster and slower at one event?
Probably.
Very possible. It was during Murray's time, though.
It was a challenge. The Cossacks, if you remember, do you remember I've got pictures with you with the Cossacks. The Cossacks, where the guy was spinning and spinning it, and the stage was so small in the Hyatt Regency, he flew off the back.
Yeah.
Took off.
It was the Red Army Choir and Dance Ensemble.
That's the one.
That's it. There you go.
Yeah.
Do you remember that, Graham? The guy flew off the back, and it's like, oh shit, we've lost one.
Yeah, I thought I'd lost my curtain in the back. He'd gone off the back of the stage.
I remember that with Dr. Alban in Lebanon. I did. I don't know if you remember, Russell. I
sent you on a And there was a war going on. It just finished.
Yeah, well, it was missiles, but
this is a job for Kevin. Yeah,
but the guitarist for Dr. Alban was jumping up and down on the stage, and it gave way. He was on a radio guitar, so he just carried on.
Down below.
Walked out up the stairs and back onto the stage again.
Really?
It was incredible what he did.
He went through the stage.
Yeah, through the stage.
That's so funny.
That was a big hit, wasn't it? It's My Life, Dr. Alban.
Yep.
Carried on. It's My Life. Yeah.
Sorry, Phil, to backtrack a bit, I just want to quickly run through some of the artists for our viewers and listeners. I mean, okay, Tina Turner, Gloria Gaynor. Some of you guys, maybe you guys weren't on all of this, but Tina Turner, Gloria Gaynor, Hot Chocolate, Demis Roussos, Eddie Grant, The Wailers, Shakin' Stevens, Status Quo, Cliff Richard, Kool and the Gang, Maxi Priest, Chris Rea, Randy Crawford, Duran Duran, Imagination, UB40, Aswad, Meat Loaf, Paul Young, Mungo Jerry in the summertime, Samantha Fox, LaToya Jackson, Danny Minogue, Swinging Blues, Shirley Bassey, Tom Jones, and many, many more. There were many more.
Brian Adams.
That
was one of our biggest.
Yeah, I mean, it was just crazy. Some of the and at that time, maybe not such big acts now, but they really were big current acts. I mean, when Chris Rea turned up, as I mentioned on another podcast, which was hilarious, I met him at Abu Dhabi airport. He'd come in on his own. The band were already there in Dubai. And I went through to the baggage carousel, which you could never do now, but because I knew everybody, they let me in. And I was like, oh, right, Chris. And he had this little plumber's bag with him. And I said, oh, have you lost your baggage? He said, no, this is my baggage. And for the rest of the tour, I was lending him clothes. And there is a side stack to that, Graham, because on your thing, and I wanted to ask you, your signed picture, he says, thanks for the socks. Or something. Did you lend him socks?
Yeah.
I mean, the guy, all he was worried about, as I mentioned in a previous podcast, was he didn't have any clothes. So the crew were lending him clothes. And he wanted a bacon sandwich and a pint of bitter, which was really hard to get in a Muslim country, as I mentioned before. But I saw on your thing, he said, thanks for the socks. I was thinking, I bet he had socks off of Graham as well.
Yeah,
good old Chris Rea. Eh? And he had at that time, he had Road to Hell, It was a massive hit
Huge,
worldwide.
yeah.
Down to earth, great guy from Middlesbrough.
Yeah.
Anyway, here we go. We're at that point, Phil, where I totally lost my way. It's back up to you.
Yeah, I mean, talking about those big names, massive names, of course, and I mean, who was responsible for doing the bookings?
Well, that was a
Simon.
combination of Brian. Brian really was, and at this stage, Brian was taking more of a back seat, and eventually they did split. And Simon pulled the short straw because he got me to go with him as well. At the beginning, I worked for both of them, so that's why I went to Pink Floyd in Russia, because I worked for both of them. But yeah, yes, Brian would come up with all these artists and quite often link them up with things he was doing, and then Simon would then get to know some of the agents, and he'd do it directly. In the end, of course, he did it directly, because they parted ways, and ILA just ended up solely in the Gulf.
You mentioned Chris Rea with his request for bacon and beer in a Muslim country. Now, there's a few other things which went on, I understand, which were just a bit bizarre, and people got away with doing these things in a Muslim country. What's this one about Speedo trunks, Graham? And I think your fondness for the sun.
The famous
sun.
What do you call
sunlight. You love the heat, apparently, so you went around, what, with trunks on or what?
I used to rig in it with my trunks on, yeah. But I used to go in for dining with a set of overalls that I got from the Oman, which I don't know if you can see this or not, but basically,
wow, yeah,
that's still there.
Overalls.
They don't get used, but
You got the budgie smugglers there.
what about the Speedos?
Those disintegrated a long time ago.
Yeah,
They died of death.
Kevin calls them budgie smugglers. Yeah.
Set the scene. There you are in your red Speedos, up a lighting rig, what, 20, 30 feet above the stage in your trunks.
Yeah.
Bizarre.
We used to plan all the lighting rig from the swimming pool, because 9 times out of 10 the stage was at the end of the swimming pool. So we used to just climb in the swimming pool and plan out where we was going to point stuff with the LDs that used to come in with the artists. So we would just get in the pool because it was so hot during the day.
Graham, thinking back, really, it was brutal. The heat. I remember you guys.
We just worked through the day.
You just went through the day. I don't know how you. I mean, looking back,
water,
a lot of tea.
Yeah. A lot of tea.
Oh yeah, you drank tea.
and a break between, I think it was 12 and 2, wasn't it?
Yeah, something like that. We used to have lunch about that time, didn't we? Just to get out of the sun, really.
But amazing. I mean, now I look back, I mean, respect to you guys. It was hard work. I mean, I remember, I don't know if you can relate to this. I mean, I was doing 3 jobs. I was promoters rep, production, and a bit of stage managing, so maybe 4, and tour managing, looking after the band and stuff like that. But I remember with late finishes and early starts that we had, where we'd have to get on a plane and go to another country around the Gulf. I know they're only an hour, but the whole thing of getting a whole band who predominantly, not the brightest sometimes, you're asking stupid questions, wanting stupid requests, and you've got to get them at 7 o'clock in the morning to get to the next thing, and blah, blah, blah. And I remember very clearly, and I was probably only about 28 years old when I was thinking this, standing in a shower with my hands on the wall in the morning at like about 6 in the morning. I'd only been to bed about 2 o'clock, thinking, I'm not sure I can do this any longer. I don't know if you ever had any moments like that. I'm sure you did, but
well, usually climbing up the truss, yeah.
I love it.
Yeah, they usually boiling hot truss, at 11 o'clock, yeah.
Yeah, because you could only focus at night, so basically you'd have to climb it at about sort of 8, 9 o'clock at night, so you're ready for the show the following day. So it was
amazing. Yeah. I mean, people I know a lot of people now who, and I'll put a shout out to a few people. Rob Storm's still in the Gulf. You remember Rob?
Yeah.
And James Goodall, who's a mate of mine, and he's a bit of a rock and roller, and he watches the podcast. Hi James. And they wouldn't believe the conditions then to what it is now, and they probably complain about it now. But I mean, it is incredible. Dubai, Abu Dhabi,
Air
Doha. These are
conditioned
incredible
warehouses.
places. Sorry?
They have air conditioned warehouses.
They have air conditioned warehouse.
Well, we did as well when we opened the doors.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they don't flood. They don't flood
Yeah.
when it rains.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, what about other team members? I mean, you must have had quite a support organisation, and I'm sure there would have been a few characters there. Wasn't there a sort of very charismatic truck driver called, what's his name?
Sharif.
Sharif.
The James Brown of the Middle East.
Yeah, that's right. He was.
He literally looked like James Brown.
No, yeah, he was. And at the end of this podcast, we will show a picture of Sharif, and he is the spitting image of James Brown. And if he could have sung, we could have really, well, Simon would have definitely marketed him, and Brian, because you know, we were doing the bootleg Beatles by that time. I reckon they could have done a bootleg James Brown with old Sharif, the truck driver. Yeah, he was quality.
I remember him from one occasion. I think you guys were having a break, and Russell, you organised a little camping expedition up into the Hajar Mountains, very high up above Ras Al Khaimah, and we were pitched on this rocky plateau terrace. And you said, "Oh, we got food coming soon," and then you said the catering team will be coming along, and up the off the tarmac track, and it was just bumpy stones for mile after mile. This white pickup truck came along. And it was driven by Sharif. And in the back, there was all these great big urns. It was like rice in one, curry in another. And that was it. He'd driven miles and miles.
That's our outside catering, Phil.
Outside catering, yeah. And it was still piping hot. Mind, it's not surprising when temperatures at 40, 45 degrees. But he brought the food up to this plateau, top of a mountain, 4,000 feet up. Good old Sharif. Yeah.
While we're on the subject of Sharif, and I will share a story with you two guys that you may or may not remember. Now, Sharif, I just thought he was such an important part of our team. He got us out of so many scrapes, and I just felt we weren't really looking after him as well as we should. And I never really understood why he didn't have a hotel room. You know, I was like, well, he sleeps in his truck, and I was thinking, yeah, but he's a bit, to us, he's a bit more than that. So anyway, there's never a hotel room for him. He always slept in his truck. But so one night, and I remember suggesting this at one meal, we were all sitting together, and I remember everybody looking at each other a bit, and it was a bit uncharacteristic, and as if you were hiding something from me. Anyway, so that night I invited Sharif. I had 2 single beds in my room, and I said, "Come share the room with me, Sharif, mate. You know, no problem." Anyway, I discovered why you were hiding this from me. This guy, to this day, and I'm 65 years old, I've never heard anyone snore so loud continuously through the whole of the night. And I was propping him up with pillows, and you know, and I'll get him to a stage where at about 4 o'clock in the morning, I got him just about right where he wasn't snoring. And all of a sudden, the next room to me, 2 Egyptians, who I'd seen go in their room earlier, big fat Egyptians, they were at it. They were having a good go, husband and wife, and it was literally vibrating the wall. And so I got Sharif sorted out, but then I was, my head was you know, you couldn't make it up. And in the morning, I remember coming to breakfast, and I remember telling whoever it was, and they were just pissing themselves laughing, because they knew that Sharif definitely had a snore problem. bless him. But
Graham,
indulge me for one more Sharif story, and I'm sure you've all got them. Samantha Fox in the garden at Alain Hilton.
Yes.
And Samantha Fox singing to backing tracks. I mean, it was such a horrible, such a cop out, but it was the best-selling show I think Simon ever had. It was
it probably was.
Anyway, and we had Sharif on follow spot, and in true form of our equipment, a bit faulty. Anyway, it was like a bloody air raid. So I come round to Sharif. I say, Sharif, and it's all the noise of the concert and everyone going mad. I said, Sharif, and he's up on a riser, and it's like shaking, and he's like he can't keep it steady. And I was like really bollocking him. I say, Sharif, for goodness sake, keep it straight. And he was like mumbling something to me, and he was like holding on for dear life. Anyway, I realized later that he was actually being electrocuted. But he wouldn't, but he wouldn't leave it. He wouldn't leave it. He was so dedicated. And I felt so bad. I gave him such a bollocking, but he wouldn't leave it,
Yeah, I think he actually had a headset on at the time, and he was shouting, "Hot, hot, it's hot."
It's hot.
He said, "It's no, it's
Oh,
hot."
you remember that? It's
Yeah.
live.
And he got his shirt out and was actually holding the handle with his
That's
shirt.
right, yeah. As if that would help, yeah.
Yeah.
I did a
Dear
trip with
bless
him to Muscat.
Bless him. Huh?
You remember that, Russell? We had an Indian show in Muscat.
Yeah.
And I don't think Simon wanted to pay flights for me. So I hopped in the truck with Sharif.
Oh, you've sent me a picture of you in the truck.
Yeah. And that's me
Yeah.
in the truck when we're going through the desert, and it is hot as hell. And Sharif is like playing his Indian music at full blast. And we had a laugh. It was a good
Graham,
Yeah.
have you ever seen The Life of Brian? The
Yeah.
film?
Yeah.
You know where Brian jumps in the pit, and there's the guy who's had a vow of silence,
Yeah.
jumps on his toe, and then he starts talking.
Very vaguely, yeah.
That guy with his, that's what Kevin used to look like. He used to go naked. You remember? You were in
With a
your
turban.
speed, and he used to wear like a turban thing with his shirt and all that.
Yeah.
But he always used to remind me of that some of the guys in The Life of Brian. And I've got a picture of you on Muscat Beach. And in my scrapbook I've got day out, rehabilitation day out at the Maudsley Hospital, for the mentally insane. But they were great days.
I embrace the culture.
What a bunch of characters. There must have been quite a few others as well who are lodged in your memories of days in the desert. So, Russ, remind us of some of the ones you came across.
Well, maybe I'll just throw a few names out at Graham and Kev. And Chris Davis, GM of the Marina Club. A man who was lovely.
He was the one with the red nose.
But he did have a little bit of a drink issue.
Yeah, just a little.
And the more the day went on, the more belligerent he became. So you always, if you wanted something, you always got it before he started hitting the sauce. But anyway, I don't know if you remember him.
He was the only one who
Marina
could get
Club.
more pissed than the UB40 guy.
Yes, right.
I'll talk about UB40 in a minute. Yeah, that's also another one. So bless him, good old. But he was a great promoter. Always full, covered his swimming pool. The members loved him. Always a great show there.
Always moaned about he was going to lose money.
Huh?
He always moaned about how he was going to lose money.
He always made money.
I remember that.
He always made. Yeah. But it was a big wind-up merchant. The other one was, of course, the famous Tolly Papiani. GM of the Alphalage Hotel, a little shithole hotel. None of the grandeur, had a swimming pool, used to cover it, and always used to steal all the best shows. And Simon and him had this love-hate relationship. And eventually became the Greek consul. He was a Greek guy, and he became the Greek consulate. And the last I heard of him, he'd run away with some sheikh $2 million to South Africa.
He did, didn't he? Yeah.
Might bump into him, Graham.
Yeah.
But
he actually he drained the swimming pool twice as well, didn't he?
Oh,
so
yeah.
So they could go down under the
punters went down,
stage. Yeah.
He did UB40 there.
That's right. Yeah.
Shirley
I remember Meat Loaf there.
Yeah.
Meat Loaf.
Yeah.
Played for 3 hours. I would turn the place upside down.
What
But a
follow
character!
spots used to be
a great promoter.
Sorry, follow spots used to be on the top of the truck. You park the truck at the end of on the drive,
close to the wall.
Yeah. And we used to put the follow spots up on there, down to the stage.
Picking up,
and if you think the Emirates is hot, Muscat was the hottest, I think.
Yeah.
So
It's a different heat as well, wasn't it?
Yeah, it used to come off the mountains there, very close. Yeah. Who else? Gerald Lawless, maybe not you, Kevin, but Gerald Lawless, the Irish guy who was at many hotels. He was a good fan of our shows. And
Russ, Gerald Lawless deserves a bit of a mention. I mean, started off with Forte Hotels, set up Jumeirah Group for Sheikh Mohammed, still on the scene as an advisor with
Is he?
so many global organizations like the World Travel Organization and so many still active, very active. Yeah.
I remember he gave us a free membership to the Carlton in which is quite near our office in Knightsbridge. And I remember going with Simon one day, and there was Anthony Hopkins on the running machine.
Really?
Yeah.
Brilliant.
Who was not a very big actor then, but he was well known.
Yeah.
The last one, there were many, but the last one was Imad Ilyas. If you remember, Imad Ilyas was a very young GM. He was probably only in his very early, maybe only 31 when he was the GM of the Alain Hilton. It was a 52-bed hotel. It's where we did Sam Fox. He was very ambitious. We did the ballet there and everything. And I remember sleeping on his couch in his apartment because he didn't have enough rooms. And I mean, he was a character, and he ended up running the Abu Dhabi Hilton, where we did Gypsy Kings, which we haven't mentioned. We did the Stars of the Bolshoi Ballet on the beach with scene changes. What were we thinking? I'm surprised we didn't sail off to Iran. I mean, can you imagine? What were we thinking to do those shows on the beach?
Didn't we put is that the one where we put a rope across the set because it was blowing off like a sail?
Yeah.
We did Duran Duran there as well.
That's right. Yeah.
And Metropole in Dubai, we did.
That was literally the next night.
Was it?
Oh, gosh. We loaded out of Dubai and straight into Abu Dhabi.
Yeah.
Well, we used to drive overnight, and we used to travel overnight, sleep for about an hour in the hotel we setting up in, and then go out and set up. Because
I mean, it's amazing, isn't it? All these lovely hotels. Well, not the Alpha Lodge Hotel, or the Metropole, but there were some quite nice hotels even then, the Albastan, and we never got a chance to really enjoy them because maybe only spent 2 hours in the bed.
Yeah.
But there you go. I must just mention, guys, we just touched on it, but we used to do a lot of cultural shows in Kuwait at the old Andalus Theatre, if you remember.
Yep.
And the equipment, there's some pictures you sent me, Graham, of the equipment. My goodness.
Is that what it was?
We got it from the music stores across the road.
Yeah, didn't we do a band or something? And got the equipment for a band.
I'll tell you what we did do. We did
Pavlova,
who was one of the richest, one of the most famous Russian dancers, Pavlova, in the Bolshoi Ballet. And we had to have them all dancing in tracksuit bottoms because it was so conservative. I mean, imagine going to the ballet and watching Swan Lake and they're all wearing tracksuit bottoms. Do you remember the promoter?
No, vaguely. Didn't really get involved.
I'm going to remind you of the promoter. There's a little bit of walk down memory lane, guys. A guy called Anant Kapadia, Indian guy from Gujarat, lovely guy. And he was our local promoter there. And I have a very quick story, Phil. Sorry, mate. But the Gulf War, the first Gulf War, Anant Kapadia, we heard that the Iraqis had invaded Kuwait. And so I rang Anant Kapadia, and the lines were still open, you know. So I rang him from the office. I said, Anant, what's going on? And he said, oh, there's tanks in the street, and he said it's chaos. I don't know. He said, I'm really concerned. He said, I'm sending my family today to Canada. He said, I'm going to stay around because obviously I've got a business here. He said, but can you do me a favor? I said, yeah, sure, anything. He said, do you live near Park Lane? I said, well, our office is in Knightsbridge. Park Lane's just around the corner in London, you know. He said, could you go to the Kuwait, the Kuwait National Bank or Bank of Kuwait or whatever else? I said, yeah, sure. What? Anyway, he said, I'll send you a like a note. And in those days, you'd never do it again today. I got this note from him, this fax authorizing me to go and transfer all his money into another account that he had. Yeah. So I went and did that for him. And he got out about 3 months later. He drove, I think, to Jordan and then out and he managed to join his family in Canada. And I never heard what happened to him, but yeah, I was very happy to help him that day. But probably today you wouldn't be allowed to do it. You know, banks are so tight. They allowed me. do it.
Is he the one that used to hire cranes, all the high-rise building
Yeah.
cranes and stuff
Yeah,
like
yeah,
that?
yeah.
Yeah. I remember him now.
And this was like a
He's a,
sideline for it.
he's a great guy. Yeah.
It was lovely, lovely fella. Yeah, and then Kapadia. Anyway, he goes in the book of history, rock and roll in the desert.
From rock and roll to cranes, by the sound of it. What a diverse operation he had.
Yeah.
Graham, must have been a lot of great memories of, come across quite a few so far in this podcast. But what, Graham, from your side of things, what any sort of really notable, memorable events from a lighting side or challenging events? What were they for you?
Yeah, I suppose doing lights for Meat Loaf was a bit hairy because I set everything up and expecting to see an LD come in, which is a lighting designer, and he didn't have one. He said, "No, you can do it, can't you?" So, well, yeah, sort of can. Yeah, all right. So then I had to redesign the whole rig so it would fit what I wanted out of his thing. And his cues were like, well, you operate the lights, you turn them out and do, because there was one song.
Where he
Can't remember the song now.
Yeah,
the kiss on stage. You didn't like, obviously in Abu Dhabi, you couldn't kiss anybody. So he said, well, when it looks as though I'm going to kiss her, black the lights out. And he said, as soon as the lights come back up, we'll throw each other apart. So it looks as though we've done a kiss. And that's what he did.
Very good.
It worked.
I remember it went really well.
Very good, yeah.
That was the
first.
He played 3 hours a night.
Yeah.
Sorry?
Yeah, he would just go on and on and on, wouldn't he? You just
3 hours.
Okay, when you're going to stop.
The Hyatt Ballroom was like a football match at the end of a cup tie or something. It was just totally trashed. The ballroom.
Yeah, with Samantha Fox was the worst for that, wasn't it?
Sorry?
Samantha Fox was the worst for that.
Oh yeah.
That's the first time the Hyatt had ever seen a riot happening in a ballroom. There's people standing on tables, on chairs, shouting, screaming, and she was miming to most of it. It was like
exactly.
It's crazy.
And Kevin, for you. Oh, sorry, Graham. Kevin.
No.
It's all right. Kevin, some of your most memorable events, shows you put up.
Well, we were talking about Kuwait there. We took Soul to Soul, which was a combination of a whole bunch of artists. Odyssey being, I think, the top one. And we stayed in this hotel that overlooked the American embassy. So the first night we were there, we decided that we had a hell of a way of getting into the country. We'd sat in the customs for probably about 5 hours, and eventually got out with visas and everything. And so we had a soft drink party. I don't know if you remember this. So we pretended that all our soft drinks were alcohol, and we all got pissed. And we started taking pictures of each other out of the window, on the balcony and that. And the police came round, and they wanted to take all the cameras because we've been taking pictures of the American embassy, and we're not allowed to do that. So they took all of the cameras, developed all the film, and then gave it all back to us. And they asked us if we were drinking alcohol, and we said, no, it's just soft drinks. And they tested everything to see.
They tested the drinks.
So that was
gave you a breathalyzer.
Yeah, it was a memorable evening. That was.
Yeah, just one thing I did find, which I don't know if you can see this at all, but
7-Up party.
The 7-Up party.
7-Up party.
Yeah, that was the invitation.
I must commend you both actually for Phil. The things they've sent me and the things you've collected all over the years. It's amazing. I've just got hardly anything from those days, just memories. But you guys, well done. That's really good. We're going to try, like I said, we're going to try and post what we can, so people can get a good feel for madness. Yeah.
No, Russell, you must have a few memories of crazy antics and incidents and goings-ons. Spill the beans.
Talking about Meat Loaf, because you were just talking about Meat Loaf, and then before UB40, very briefly, UB40, they were an amazing band. I really liked them and good live act. But every night in the dressing room, they used to fight each other. I mean, properly fight each other. And I always felt, I never got to the bottom of it, but so much so that I just wouldn't go in the dressing room at the end of the show, because they just were having a big punch up. and they were really weird. And in the morning, they were all like the best of friends. One time I had to break up a punch up in first class when they were arguing whether the homor that Gulfair had served up, which is for those who don't know, it's very traditional fish of the region, homor, and they were saying no, this is chicken, and the other guy was saying no, it's fish, and they had a fight. I had to break it up. I mean, they were mad. Anyway, that was one thing. But Meat Loaf, I remember Meat Loaf because I had a very bad wisdom tooth pain. And, you know, obviously you've all probably had wisdom teeth and it's very painful. And I told John Wallace, if you remember, he was the GM who went on to run Hyatt worldwide, by the way. He was just the GM of Dubai Galleria at that time. And he said, go to my Dr. Ziegler. I'll get Ching, the secretary, to call him. So I turned up. I was in so much pain. And I remember turning up at this Dr. Ziegler, the dentist, American dentist. And I just said to her, I have to see him now. I'm really in pain. I was really like aggressively like in a state. And he took me in there and he was like all very chatty. Hey man, how you doing? I was like, you know, and all this. Anyway, he got me on the chair. He said, oh, we'll have that out. Well, normally for a wisdom tooth, it's quite an operation, you know, but he was going to take the whole thing out there and then. Anyway, and there was like, I'm on the chair and he's saying, so where are you from? I said, well, actually, I was born in America, but I'm British. And he said, in America? Where are you from in America? Oh, well, Virginia. And he brought down this roller blind of the sort of roller map of America and said, we're neighbors. I'm from Kentucky. And I was in so much pain. I was like, I don't really need this bullshit. Anyway, at the end, I paid him in tickets for Meat Loaf. And he said to me, as I was leaving, he said, good news. He said, you can have a couple of days off now. I was like, I've got a show tonight. And he was, yeah. And I gave him his tickets and that was it. I never paid him. And the next morning, I got on the flight, sitting in first class there with the band. And I was so tired, I fell asleep before the plane took off. And I was woken up by two Gulfair stewardesses, white as sheet, because I was lying there like that with blood coming down. They thought that I died on the flight. I know. So that's my Meat Loaf memory.
Now, Russ, talking about your dentist, did he tie a rope from your tooth to the back of his Range Rover? Because he was a rally guy in Dubai.
I think he would have. He was crazy, this guy, Dr. Ziegler.
Yeah. He was a rally guy in Dubai with John Wallace. Yeah, they had a team together.
Oh, okay. You know the
guy. They crazy, absolutely crazy. Had a battered Range Rover racing around the sand dunes. No hope in hell of winning. They just did it for the fun of it. They were absolutely, as you say, crazy, mad.
You know more about it than me. I just remember.
I know from that side.
But I mean, imagine having a roller map of America, and he literally pulled this thing down, and I'm in so much pain. It's like, yeah, we're neighbours. So I don't give a toss. Anyway, where are we? We're totally lost on this thing.
We're just talking about crazy moments and big shows, and we've had a few crazy ones, from dentists and dying on the plane to Kevin's and Graham's Pepsi party and taking photographs of the American embassy. Yeah, it can't get more diverse than that, can you? Really? Changing direction, Russell.
Yeah. Do you guys have any stories about the infamous Simon Wharton? Because I feel I do owe it to him because we're all here. We're sitting here now because, ultimately he did. But he was quite an interesting character. I mean, I was saying he's still alive. I mean, I sent him a message the other day. But I have to give him credit because he loved his music. But it was as if, correct me if I'm wrong, this was because I worked with him for so long. It's like he never took anything or anyone seriously. And, I mean, I was always flabbergasted at some of the things he'd do or say. And I remember being in a bar in Bahrain and he said, come and have a beer with me. So I said, yeah, okay. We went for a beer and it was a bit of a rough place. There was a lot of like merchant seamen and like oil workers. They were tough guys in those days, guys from Aberdeen and all that. And anyway, I said, I'm just going to go to the toilet. When I came back, I felt a certain tension and all these guys were staring at me. And I was like, oh, shit. I said, Simon, come on, drink up. I think we should go. He said, why? What's wrong? I said, well, everyone's like staring at me. I think, we might get ourselves into a bit of a ruck here. He said, oh yeah, I know. He said, because when you went to the toilet, I told him that you think you're hard and you can have them all. And that's his joke. I was going to get killed by these guys because he told them that I wanted to have a fight with them. So we left that pretty good. And the last one is, I remember driving down to Muscat, and I drive. He never used to like to drive. He used to make me drive. I'm driving along on this side, obviously, and there's a guy in front going really slow. So Simon leant across, beat the horn, and on my side, above my steering wheel, went like this, as if I was like abusing the guy, but it was actually him. And he used to do all things like that. You know, he was a crazy guy. And every time I used to go to his room, he'd call me he'd say, can you come up to my room? He'd open the door and he was totally naked. Every single time. Every single time. And it was like, Simon, please put some clothes on, you know? And then, do you remember when he stopped wearing glasses and he started wearing contact lenses? And he called me up to his room and said, I can't find my contact lenses. These bloody contact lenses. So I got up to him, I'll come up. He said, can you help me? Because I can't see. So anyway, I go up there. He answers the door naked. And I said, Simon, your contact lens is on your cheek. And it's like, you know, all these crazy things I remember about Simon. But he really was a wind-up merchant, wasn't he? You know, he didn't take anything seriously, but he had this passion for music, and he brought some great artists. And at the end of the day, he was really, through it all, he was very honourable and very fair, and he always paid his way. And I respect him for that, for sure. Have you got any memories, Kev, of Simon?
I didn't work that much with him, so
I think.
Yeah,
I think Russell had more of a dealings than we did.
Yeah.
Oh,
there's only the occasion. Yeah, there's occasional times when he's side of stage or off stage and he's jumping up and down because of the band. He enjoyed the band and the music.
Yeah.
And Brian Miller was the same. He would enjoy seeing the shows.
Yeah.
And this is great, isn't it? Yeah.
I think in hindsight, and I have to mention this, I remember him dancing profusely to Carrie Glitter, but maybe we shouldn't mention that now. Yeah, bless him. Anyway, Simon, well done, mate.
Yeah, well done to him.
Yeah, he brought some great acts.
Good boss.
Russ, what was his favourites? And there was one or two which he wanted to, but never did bring over.
Yeah, I feel bad for him because he really loved Brian Ferry. I loved Brian Ferry, and he just wanted to bring Brian Ferry, but he never quite got it across the line. And I think that would have been his swan song if he'd done it. But there you go. It's you can't always get everyone you want, can you? You know.
And part 2 of the Desert Rats of Rock and Roll will be coming your way on YouTube and all major podcast channels very soon.